Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them. And we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, the Silver Coin, issue number 11. I frickin' loved this issue. This is one of the best issues of Silver Coin yet. And yes, it is back after a brief hiatus. This is Michael Walsh's series. Michael Walsh is the artist. He is also the architect of this series, but each issue is its own separate, self-contained story, and each issue is written by a different all-star talent in the industry. This issue, for instance, is written by James Tynion IV, and if you think James Tynion has already been doing great work in horror recently with things like Something is Killing the Children, Nice House on the Lake, The Closet, it goes on and on and on that list, you can add Silver Coin number 11. Like I said, I thought this was one of the best issues of Silver Coin yet. It all takes place in a diner. It gave me a little bit of vibes from that issue of Sandman that it was all set in the diner from like the doll's house. It ain't quite the same type thing, but it kind of had the same setting for sure, and a little bit of the same unsettling, chilling effect. This book was incredibly well done, impeccably crafted horror. Michael Walsh, his artistic vision has been the cohesive unit. His vision is tying this all together. Even though you've got all these different types of stories, all these different types of styles, all these different creators coming in, it all feels rooted and connected, but they each stand on their own. In this one, like I said, the diner, the Silver Coin, people, food, it doesn't end well. I loved this book. Plus, it kind of leaves something dangling at the end that could be brought to fruition in future issues. I don't know what the direction of this series is going to be now. I'm sure it's still going to be the same thing, but holy cow, I loved this issue, and I would love a follow-up. That was fantastic. Easily the pick of the week. Also from Image Comics, we have Beware the Eye of Odin, written by Doug Wagner with artwork by Tim Odlin. This also has coloring by Michelle Matson, lettering by Ed Dukeshire. This was a really solid, fun issue. I loved it. We had Doug and Tim on the show probably like a month and a half, 2 months ago. They were talking about it. This book is awesome. First of all, Tim's artwork is great. It's got this great sense of detail and layout, but at the same time, it's very thrilling and exhilarating, right? So it's dynamic. I freaking loved it. So it's about this dude who kills a frost giant, finds out that he's got now this possession of this eye orb. It's the Eye of Odin, and legend has it that when you have the Eye of Odin, you have to return it to its rightful owner by like in a week's time or something like that, or you're going to die of boils and a terrible, terrible death, right? So it's about this dude who is starting to realize how serious his father was being when he was telling him certain things about his culture and his society and his family. And now he's been called to adventure, but he's got some really cool characters that are around him, surrounding him. Doug Wagner does a great job of bringing a light touch to the script. All the exposition's handled very delicately. It never gets bogged down. The artwork has a lot to do with that because it's so dynamic, and the script goes right along with it. I thought this book was fantastic. I really dug it. I'm excited to see this explored more. If you're into things like Norse mythology, Norse fantasy, and things like that, you really want to check this out. Also, if you just love really great, gnarly, creature-ridden comic books that are fantastically drawn and impeccably written, you definitely want to check this out. Beware the Eye of Odin, number 1 is $4.99, but there is a lot of story to it. And like I said, there's some really cool bits, some dark, scary bits, some light, humorous bits, but the tone is consistent all the way through. Y'all, Tim, Doug, you killed it. I loved it. We also, from Image Comics, have Homesick Pilots issue number 15, written by Dan Waters, with artwork by Casper Wingard and lettering by Aditya Bidikar. This is the final issue of Homesick Pilots. And as sad as that may be, this was a splendidly done finale. All the threads come merging to one point, one theme, one crescendo, we should say, right? But it all works so well, and there is a nice twist towards the end here that makes you be like, oh man, but I loved it. This book has been about youth culture. This book has been about punk rock music. This book has been about a rebellious attitude against authority. It's about trauma. It's about ghosts. It's about so much, but it all comes to a singular focus here at the final issue. I loved it. I cannot wait to sit down, read all 15 issues, because this all together, a beginning, a middle, and an end, has made one excellent story. And it may be sad to see this book go because it's so amazing. But those cats got something else planned for us soon. I'm sure. Then we also got I Hate This Place, issue number 2. Kyle Starks, Art-Jan Toplin, Lee Lowridge. I thought the first issue was pretty cool. It's about these two chicks. They wind up, one of them inherits this like farm or this ranch or this house or something in the woods, but they get there and there's like ghosts and spooky stuff going on, and it's kind of cursed. And now they've decided that they're going to, because, you know, they're in love with each other and they care about each other, they're going to stick together and deal with it, right? So this is the second issue. This is them dealing with all of the revelations of the last issue, and holy cow, this book does not hesitate at all to ramp up that momentum. It's got some gore, it's got some wild stuff, and it's got some interesting revelations on the dramatic side of the book. But man, it really culminates in a really gnarly bit that I absolutely love. So I thought the second issue of this was actually better than the first issue. I thought the first issue was decent, solid, but this second issue, pretty spectacular. Then we've got, what is the third issue of Bloodstained Teeth? Yes, the third issue of Bloodstained Teeth, written by Christian Ward, artwork by Patrick Reynolds, amazing coloring by Heather Moore, Hassan Otsmanel-Howe on the lettering. The coloring in this book is amazing. The artwork is great too. The coloring gives it life. This could easily look very stagnant and stiff if it was like in black and white, but there is energy in that color that makes it all absolutely pop, including these action scenes. Bloodstained Teeth is about a vampire who is a vampire for hire, right? If something's going wrong, say you're dying, say you just want to be young and beautiful forever or something like that, you could pay this dude, he's going to come and turn you into a vampire. However, turning people into vampires is frowned upon by the Vampire Society. So when they find out this one dude's been doing it for years, they basically tell him, they give him an ultimatum. They're like, yo, you go kill everybody you turned, or we gonna kill you. So now he's hunting down everybody that he's ever sired for hire, and each issue is focusing on a different... It's interesting because you're learning stuff about this dude's past, you're learning stuff about other characters, and also enriching the outer world of Bloodstained Teeth. The artwork is super solid, but like I said, it could feel stiff at times, but it doesn't, because that coloring does so much job as far as the energy of this book. And Hassan Otsmanel-Howe, one of the best letterers in the business today. Bloodstained Teeth number 3, I really liked it. 1 was cool, 2 dipped a little bit, 3 rose it right back up for me. Then we got Gunslinger Spawn here with issue number 9. McFarlane, Brett Booth's artwork, super solid. It's like a flashback to the 90s. It's big and explosive when it needs to. It's got lots of details, sometimes maybe not necessary, but it works because that's what we're into when we're getting into a Spawn comic. We want those rich, textured, detailed backgrounds, and that's what we're getting here with the artwork of Brett Booth. The story is super cool too, so I'm starting to piece it together. Oh, so this Gunslinger stuff takes place before the events in some of the other Spawn books. So this is actually like the first time Jessica takes Gunslinger Spawn to meet Al. And their first meeting doesn't go very well, so of course we got to have a little bit of a confrontation. You know, they got to whip them out, see how that goes. But Gunslinger Spawn's been super fun. I've been enjoying the Spawn books. For sure, Gunslinger's one of the better ones right now. They're all pretty solid. Then we got New Burn, issue number 8. This is the end of New Burn for now. It will return in the fall, but it wraps up the story that was dangling from the last issue very well. So this is a new trend that we're finding. New trend. This is a more recent return to self-contained stories that are part of an overarching narrative. We're seeing that in things like Ice Cream Man. We're seeing that in Bloodstained Teeth. We're seeing that even in like Beware the Eye of Odin, which also has amazing coloring that provides a rich texture to Odlin's pencils and inks there. Silver Coin, they're anthologies, right? But they're just doing the job that a comic book's supposed to do. Give you a good, solid, one-and-done story that's connected to something larger. Now, the only issue of New Burn that ended with a cliffhanger was the last issue of this, and it leads right into this awesome kind of conclusion of what you could, I guess, call Season 1 of Newburn, but I love it. I love the intrigue here, and now Newburn, who is a cool kind of character. Newburn is a former cop who now works for the mafia, and all the different mob families basically pay him a ridiculous amount of money to adjudicate between them. So if there's something that happens that's cross-family, he's the one that goes in and takes care of it. His new partner got got kind of ratted out for a murder that she was responsible for. In the last issue, she's in jail. Newburn has to go and figure that out. It's got action, it's got intrigue, and we're learning some intense things about Newburn's character that I thought was really solid. Newburn, number 8. Let's jump over to Marvel. We get New Fantastic Four, issue number 1, written by Peter David, with artwork by Alan Robinson and coloring by Mike Spicer. So this is a throwback to those days when there was the New Fantastic Four. Walt Simonson, Art Adams, 3 issues of Fantastic Four. They're probably the best-selling issues of Fantastic Four of the 90s for sure. It's like 347, 348, 349. But it's when basically the Fantastic Four get kidnapped by Skrulls, and so they have to form a new team, and it's Hulk, who's the Gray Hulk, Mr. Fix-It at the time, Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Ghost Rider. So this is presenting a story in which something happens that calls these heroes back to Vegas together, and they have to form the team again to go up against these devils or something. The overall story I found to be kind of not really my bag, but I love Fantastic Four, and I love the New Fantastic Four era. They also make a brief appearance in 374. You need to check that one out. We did a Marvel in the 90s on that. I'll clip that out one day, and it'll go up, but it's on a Rockin' Robbie Live from like November, December, something like that. But New Fantastic Four number 1, it's all right. Art could be a little bit better. Story could be a little bit more concise, but it tickled those nostalgic feels for me. Then we got Punisher War Journal Blitz number 1. It's a one-shot comic, a start of a series of one-shots. So this is written by Torun Grönbeck and art by Lan Medina, and it's okay. If you're liking the current Punisher run, with him being the leader of the Hand and all that stuff, and I am. I think Jason Aaron, Jesus Saez, I think they're doing a solid job on that. So I was kind of excited to see this. This is, exploring just other missions, other things outside of that main story. But it was all right. This is basically Frank takes the Hand. He goes after the hate monger. And it was just all right. It was very predictable. The artwork was just so-so. It didn't have the vibe or the energy of the main Punisher series. So overall, I was kind of let down by this one. And I'm just going to keep reading the main Punisher book. But if you're a super hardcore Punisher fan, you might want to check that out. Amazing Spider-Man issue number 4. The best issue of this new volume of Amazing Spider-Man yet. I loved this issue. Zeb Wells does something really clever here with the plot that Tombstone's doing. You get a bunch of Spider-Man trying to just break out of this trap that he's in. And some of the better artwork we've gotten in this series, not every page, but most pages are what I love and expect out of John Romita Jr. and Scott Hanna on Spider-Man. So there are some really cool moments. Spider-Man is at his wit's end here. He's trying to break out. The whole last issue, he was just got the crap beat out of him by Tombstone. And then what happens here? I really liked this issue. By the way, Mary Jane does make an appearance with her kid or whatever. They don't talk about or explain that at all. They're not going to until that big oversized issue. But I like that. I thought that was cool. Immortal XMen number 3 is here. A big Destiny-focused issue. Kind of filling in some backstory. Probably doing a little bit of retconning here and there and stuff like that. And kind of giving us a little bit of a vision of the possible future and other things that are going on. And I just found it rather dull. Kind of boring. And it dragged on. So I was not entertained. This book is... I don't know. The X-Men books obviously aren't really working that well for me. But Immortal X-Men is, so far to me, pretty boring. So I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to stick into this. Now, I was wanting to stick through it because of all the Avengers, X-Men, Eternal stuff. But then at the same time, I'm like, I may not read every single issue of that. But we shall see. You don't know till you read it. Anyway, Moon Knight number 12 is here. And it's all right. I think Moon Knight's been really great under Jed MacKay and Cappuccio on the artwork. That is Alessandro Cappuccio. I've been digging it. I've been liking it. But we're kind of building up to now this big finale of what everything's been leading to with Zodiac versus Moon Knight. And it's all right. So this kind of wraps up that first year. And it does it in an okay kind of way. Now, this whole thing was built up with these self-contained stories that were building up to an arcing narrative, and it kind of culminates here, and it's okay. Like, it's not bad, and it's not just okay. It's actually pretty solid. It's pretty decent, but there's some really good books out this week. So this one was just kind of okay. Artwork's kinetic, story, kind of, it's got some interesting bits. I like it. I know, right now I know it seems like I liked it. Let's just leave it at that. Silver Surfer Rebirth, issue number 5. Really like the conclusion of this one. This wraps up the Ron Mars, Ron Lem, Don Ho, Israel Silva story that throws back to the 90s and gives us a classic 90s era Silver Surfer book, including Thanos and Tyrant. I really like this. I thought this was a cool, fun run. Some of my favorite Marvel books right now are Marvel books that throw back to another era, like the 90s or the 80s or something like that. There's 3 of them out this week, 2 of them written by Peter David, so that's probably why. This is my era, this is my jam. I like it. I love Ron Lem on Silver Surfer. It doesn't quite capture the vibe of the old school, but it's just enough of it, and a nice, fun story that didn't try too hard to do anything but be entertaining. So I liked it. Silver Surfer Rebirth, issue number 5. Then we got Maestro World War M, going back, but going ahead. Going ahead to go back to the Maestro. This is the 3rd miniseries that Peter David has done. They did Maestro, then they did War and Pax, now they're doing World War M. So you got Namor versus Maestro here, and Abomination's in the midst. You got a little bit of Doctor Doom action, some really great Doctor Doom moments in here. But I'm really digging this Maestro series. I think it's fun. It's telling a great, fun story. It's exhilarating. We got Giganto coming back. That is Giganto, isn't it? You know, the villain, the monster from the first issue of the Fantastic Four. And Herman Peralta's artwork is fantastic in Maestro. Really, really like it. Let's jump over to DC. And from DC, we have Black Adam, issue number 1, the start of a 12-issue miniseries written by Christopher Priest with artwork by Rafa Sandoval. I thought the issue was pretty solid. I liked it. Now, I like Christopher Priest as a writer, have since like Quantum and Woody and Black Panther days, and Priest likes to play with structure and tell things in a non-linear fashion at times, and he does it here, and that can be disconcerting for some people, but it's kind of easier to understand it with Black Adam than it is in other things. Like, I remember when I first read his Black Panther, now I was a bit younger, but I was just like trying to keep everything straight, but I thought it was so clever how things would come in and it would connect. So if you like Christopher Priest structured comics, you're probably going to like this one. It's an interesting characterization of Black Adam, not necessarily Black Adam, but Black Adam's alter ego, let's just say that. I don't see or know of many comics that I've read we're really focused in on who Black Adam is when he's not powered up. And the portrayal here is a little weird. It doesn't necessarily feel like it's supposed to be tied into continuity whatsoever. And I'm not even talking about with the whole death of the Justice League. It just feels like they're just telling a 12-issue story. Who cares about the rest of continuity? This is something that's supposed to be there, you know, for when the movie comes out, like a graphic novel can be available or something. But I did like it. I did like the artwork. It's got some interesting concepts. It's doing some interesting things. And maybe it is supposed to be tied into continuity because it says this stuff takes place before the Justice League death. I don't know. This is an interesting take on Black Adam that I'm not familiar with this approach. And without spoiling things, I'll just say those that are into potential first appearances, you might want to check out this one. I liked it, though. I thought it was solid. Then we got Aquaman the Flash Voidsong, a 3-issue prestige format miniseries, $6.99, big, thick, square bound, written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing with artwork by Vasco Georgiev. I was not expecting anything out of this book, to be honest with you. I was not looking forward to reading this book as much as I am an Aquaman fan. Felt like this was just kind of thrown together because, well, at the time, there was supposed to be a Flash movie this year and an Aquaman movie. So there you go. Like, put them together. Like, we got a Black Adam book and you get it? You get, okay, I get it. But I wasn't expecting much out of it. This book was awesome. This was one of the best just starts to a superhero team up that DC has done in a while. This was really cool. First of all, you don't really see Aquaman and the Flash interact that much on their own. So that's a cool dynamic that they have, that I love the way that the writers were exploring that. The artwork is okay. It's like average and it's okay. And it could have had a little bit more energy, a little bit more depth to it. But I liked this. Basically, the premise is this. Something has happened. Everybody on Earth is just like in a catatonic state, except for Barry Allen and Arthur Curry. So they have to team up together and figure out what's going on. It's oversized, but the way that the story is structured, it builds on relationships, it builds on character, and it builds on an exciting concept and a mystery that keeps developing all the way through to the end. And now here I am telling you that this random Aquaman Flash 699 book is one of the great books of the week. Then we got Dark Crisis, Young Justice issue number 1, first of 6 issues, and the Dark Crisis tie-ins have started. So this one is written by Megan Fitzmartin with artwork by Laura Braga. And it's okay. It's pretty solid. I would definitely recommend this one to fans of the Peter David 90s Young Justice run. Now, I loved that run with Peter David and Todd Knock. So I really liked and appreciated this. It doesn't quite capture that vibe or energy because it is very heavily wordy, but Peter David can be wordy sometimes, but there's a flow to it that makes it work. The dialogue here is just a little bit stiff, so it kind of throws you out, but most of it is just kind of throwback Young Justice type fun because, you know, basically Connor, Tim, and Bart wind up flung back into Young Justice days. And then a lot of the issue, like half the issue, is just Cassie kind of being sad and narrating a lot. So I don't know. It was uneven. As a hardcore Young Justice fan from back in the day, I would recommend it for us. But no, not really. I can't recommend. I mean, it's okay. But as far as Dark Crisis tie-in goes, doesn't seem like this one's going to be important to your understanding of Dark Crisis. So as a tie-in, I think it's a bit skippable. Then we got The Flash 783. This is a Dark Crisis tie-in that is not necessary to your understanding of Dark Crisis, but it does further elaborate on a thread from Dark Crisis. That is the thread of the missing Barry Allen. Where is he? Now that they know that the Justice League has died, Black Adam has come back, told them what happened, they know that they need to find Barry Allen. All of a sudden, everybody gives a hell. I almost said give a shit, and I didn't want to say it for some reason. But then all of a sudden everybody gives a shit. They want to go find Barry, so they figure out a way to find him, but they have to go through the multiverse to do it, so we get introduced to other versions throughout the Omniverse of Flash, and they're looking for Flash. So it's the search for Barry Allen, which is an integral part of Dark Crisis. Maybe not 100% necessary to your understanding and enjoyment of the main series, but it is a nice thread that's going to be taking place in Flash that's going to have some cool concepts. Then we got Batman Superman World's Finest issue number 4. It's my favorite issue of this series yet. The artwork by Dan Mora is awesome. And you got Hal Jordan versus Batman and Superman because he's controlled by this like new demon guy that appeared in the last issue or whatever, right? So you got a lot of stuff going on, but it's all handled really well. First of all, Dan Mora, Tamara Bonvillain, the art team here, freaking amazing, really cool, explosive stuff. I love the way Dan Mora does Green Lantern and its constructs. So the artwork was top-notch. I feel like the story has been a bit overstuffed in this issue, though. That gets ironed out, and Mark Waid's starting to write to Dan Mora's strength as an artist a little bit better. It's starting to become more of a cohesive unit from art and writing together. So I really like this issue of World's Finest. Nice throwback classic action. Then we got Nightwing issue 93. Overall, I liked this issue of Nightwing. It does progress forward a lot of bits about what's going on in the city with its corruption, what's going on with Blockbuster, what's going on with Heartless. So it's doing that. It does kind of have this like trite story that's like tying it all together in this issue, but I do appreciate how everything else moved forward. Bruno Redondo's artwork, though, is supremely awesome. This is some of his best stuff right here in the pages of Nightwing, aside from that awesome issue, of course, where it's, you know, all the way through, you know, the Mike Allred stuff. But this was absolutely awesome. When I said Mike Allred stuff, he did a Madman book that kind of did something similar. I'm not saying that it was a Mike Allred issue or a ripoff of Mike Allred. Anyway, Nightwing 93, I like it. I think it's a pretty solid run. It's doing some things here and there that are a little cheesy, a little kooky, but for the most part, it's a pretty solid, classy book. Then we got Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen's boss, Perry White. This is a one-shot that's celebrating Perry White. I don't know why DC decided to do this, but they do have a brand new 8-page story from Matt Fraction, Steve Lieber, Nathan Fairbairn. So this is the team that did Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. That last 12-issue series, that book is phenomenal. It was one of DC's best books that year. completely undersung. Like, I absolutely love that book. I think it's some of Matt Fraction's best work. That being said, their Perry White story in here is really solid. Then it reprints one of their Perry White stories from that Jimmy Olsen book. Then it reprints some stuff from the 70s, and it reprints some stuff from, like, the aughts, I guess you could say. So it's all Perry White-centric. I don't know why they're doing this. If it was like Perry White's anniversary, like the 80th anniversary of Perry White, you figured they'd put something on there, but they'd have to pay a designer, I guess, to do that. But, I don't know, it's a celebration of Perry White. There you go. Duo issue number 2, I liked better than issue number 1, but it's still an intriguing setup that was given to us in issue number 1. Duo is part of Earth M, part of the Milestone type stuff, but it's about these two scientists. They're also lovers. They're working on nanotechnology. Someone tries to kill them, successfully kills one of them, but her consciousness gets imprinted into her lover by the nanotechnology, and the nanotechnology goes into him, and now he's like got superpowers, but he also has her consciousness in him. So this is the issue where they're dealing with that, where they're learning this, where they're learning their powers, they're learning about their connections, they're learning about the pleasures of it, and they're learning about the dangers of it, and we're also building up the threat around them. So I like it. I think it's a nice, solidly written story by Greg Pak. Decent artwork by Koi Pham. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. From Dark Horse Comics, we got the Lonesome Hunters, issue number 1. This is by Tyler Crook. Written and illustrated by Tyler Crook. In fact, he even lettered the book. And this book was fan-frickin-tastic. So it's about this dude who, when he was a kid, was given this, like, mystical sword, and he's supposed to, like, fight these supernatural forces, but it doesn't go well. Then we cut to, like, the present day, and he's an old man. Hasn't had much time for adventures, I guess, since then, but he's just an old man, kind of mad at the world, mad at the youth, and all this kind of stuff. But then crazy mystical magic stuff starts happening again, and it involves this kid that lives in his apartment building, and he's going to have to pull out that mystical sword and actually do something with it this time. This was great. I love the focus on these characters. I loved the artwork. I loved the pacing of it. This was an incredibly well done book that I heavily enjoyed it. Tyler Crook's a hell of an artist. Hell of a writer, too. Lonesome Hunters, issue number 1. Super solid. Then we got the Shaolin Cowboy, Cruel to Be Kin, issue number 2. Damn near pick of the week. This was absolutely phenomenal. Jeff Darrow's artwork is insanely detailed. If you have never read this, you owe it to yourself to read this book. It is beautiful. It is gorgeous. I think the coloring is amazing. I know some people think it's a little bit too muddy or browny, but it pops for me in this issue in particular, more so than I would say in the last issue. So maybe they did see it printed and they brightened it up a little bit, but I mean, you're just going to get pages of the Shaolin monk fighting birds. And there's this giant jellyfish and this car being driven by skeletons. He's running around trying to save this lizard. It is absolutely wild. Wild. Look, there's a giant featherless chicken that he's fighting. What? This book makes no sense, except for in the sense that Jeff Darrow's having a hell of a time putting it together, and I'm having a hell of a time reading it. If you've never read any Shaolin Cowboy, pick up the first issue of this. You can just start there. You're going to want to go back and get those 3 trade paperbacks. By the way, as if that wasn't enough, making me triple dip, we got a Frank Quitely cover, and we got an Ed Piscor cover, featuring Red Room characters. Speaking of Red Room, Trigger Warnings, issue number 4 is here from Ed Piscor, Fantagraphics. This is fantastic. The only bad thing about this is it's the finale of Red Room for this year. Trade paperbacks coming in October, and we're not starting season 3 until next year. So, 1 series of Red Room a year, and I am all here for it. This is another issue, kind of like issue 4 of Antisocial Network, where it's kind of like an EC comic. So you got the cryptocurrency keeper coming in and narrating these stories, but they're all connected to this idea of what happens when they finally are able to figure out who some of these people that go to the Red Rooms are. And certain handles that we see in the Red Room chat rooms in previous issues, we actually get to meet those people in this issue. The artwork is gnarly, it's gory, it's gross, it's got some really cool stories. I love there's like a Mr. Rogers one in here. That was probably one of my favorites, but all of the stories connect overall with a great framing sequence. This is a tribute to EC Horror, but it also stands on its own as Ed Piscor's just amazing work. The artwork and the craft involved here. The use of his version of like a digital duo shade. His use of of the not white cover, but like, I absolutely love this book. Is so wild. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not for everybody, but it is for me. But the way it is handled is meticulous. It is beautiful. Red Room is beautiful murder. Let's just say that. Then we got Something is Killing the Children. Issue number 24 is a very quick, breezy issue that I thought actually did a lot of great things, including the artwork. Of course, Werther Dell'Edera does this stuff amazing. These double-page splashes, pacing it, pop, 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 pop. Oh my goodness, the syncopation of this, the horrific aspects of this book are absolutely amazing. And then we do, towards the end, start ramping up some of the tension and the threat to Erica Slaughter. So this has been a slow burn, but remember, everybody thought that basically season 1 of Something is Killing the Children was a slow burn, and then over the course of 20 issues, they told this masterful story. This is just the start of the next one. Something is Killing the Children 24, still loving that book. From Dynamite, we got Samurai Sonia, issue number 1. So in the Sonyaverse, there is a version of Red Sonja where she is in samurai times in Japan. She's like a samurai warrior, and that's what this book is. So it's exactly what you think, but it's tied into a different brand of sorcery and action, because it does distinctly kind of have that Japanese samurai type feel, and I really appreciated it, right? She's blessed by Japanese gods. Once again, we got a moving, talking skeleton here. I really liked this book. I thought the artwork was solid. It was a nice, breezy read. Had a great pace to it. Thought it was solid as hell. Then we got Elvira in Horrorland, issue number 2. This is my favorite stuff that Dynamite does right now. The Elvira stuff by David Avallone is absolutely amazing. He knows Cassandra Peterson. He understands her voice. That voice comes through in these issues. It's got that fun, kitschy, campy kind of approach that with a wink and a nod to the audience. It knows what it's doing. It's being self-referential. It knows Elvira. And in this latest series, Elvira is stuck going through different dimensions that represent different films. So in the first issue, she was at the Bates Motel. It was Psycho, Elvira in Psycho. In this one, she's at the Overlook. Of course, they have different names, but we know what's going on. She's in The Shining in this one. So there's lots of cool references. I love all the dialogue that Jack Torrance, or Nick Torrance, says in this one. I freaking love it. I thought this book was absolutely amazing. It's got a charm and a light fare to it that just rocks. If you're an Elvira fan, you gotta pick up this book, and I always love these photo covers. Then we got John Carter of Mars, issue number 3, written by Chuck Brown with artwork by, it's George Kambadias. At first, I wasn't expecting this type of artwork. It looks like animation. It looks like a cartoon. It looks like some, I don't know, it looks like a cartoon you would see, but I've actually gotten into it. And typically, for like Warlord of Mars type stuff, I want a more realistic looking kind of artwork, more fantasy-based, something a little bit more in that kind of a vein, but it actually works for me for this series. John Carter's back on Earth. He's lost his powers. Some of his friends or fellow soldiers are on Mars now. They have his powers. They're trying to learn him. You got all these different things going on. Chuck Brown's kind of doing a great job with this, but that artwork is really starting to warm up on me for sure. Then we got Nottingham, issue number 8. There's a traitor in the midst. In the first bit of Nottingham, if you never read Nottingham, it's kind of retelling the Robin Hood story, but it's more on the side of the Sheriff of Nottingham and less on the side of Robin Hood. Robin Hood's more like the villain, like they're not good dudes, and the Sheriff's just trying to be like a good soldier and work in the midst of all this terrible stuff, including the corrupt Prince John and all this kind of stuff. But here, he is sent on a mission that he has to team up with Robin Hood for, but they got a traitor in their midst, so this is them trying to figure out that traitor. I love Nottingham. I'm glad it came back. It doesn't quite still have that same energy and vibe as the previous volume, but it still scratches that itch, so I still like it. Then we've got Heavy Metal Drummer, issue number 5 from Behemoth. This book started off so strong, and it's kind of waned for me just a little bit, probably because it kicked off so crazy, and now almost everything that happens doesn't seem as crazy as just the initial first issue introducing this concept. But reading this issue, I got lulled right back into it. We get to see a little bit more of this dude with his band, and we're building up to a frantic climax that I'm very excited to see what's going to happen here. And I don't want to spoil anything, but the last grandma that he has to come up against in here cracks me up. I really like it. This book is wild. It is weird. It is irreverent, subversive. It's everything I like about great comic books. Heavy metal drummer. Solid stuff. And yeah, gnarly artwork. Always. Great coloring. Really cool stuff. Bloody, violent. Hell yeah. So that's what I read. That's what I thought about it. Pick of the week for sure was Silver Coin, but it could have easily gone to Red Room. Could have easily gone to Shaolin Cowboy. Could have easily gone to Homesick Pilots or Beware the Eye of Odin. All really solid books. Bloodstained Teeth, Image. Almost everything I read from Image was pretty dope. Marvel has some okay stuff. That SpiderMan was pretty solid. Love the conclusion of Silver Surfer Rebirth. Black Adam is interesting, but Aquaman and The Flash was very surprising for me. As far as Dark Crisis tie-ins, not necessary. Kind of necessary, but not fully. But this one, you're going to get more enjoyment and just the overarching narrative. World's Finest was pretty solid. And Lonesome Hunters. Definitely check out that. Some really solid books. It's a great new comic book day. What are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts, blogs, and a whole lot more. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Station. Pop, pop, boom!